Guys, what's the crack? Bitcoin with Danny here. Come on. Should be okay on the internet. The Federal Reserve have just told you, and Blackrock, you should buy Bitcoin. Now, I would never give you financial advice, and nothing here is financial advice, but I'm just going to tell you about what these guys have said. And hopefully you can continue your journey, educating yourself about Bitcoin, and realize that everything that you've been taught through the marketing campaign to help you to not understand Bitcoin has all been incorrect. And when you understand Bitcoin, life becomes beautiful, life becomes easier, and you get to have more time to do the things you want with the people you want to be with. So it's absolutely awesome. Now, nothing here is financial advice. I do happen to run Ireland's first Bitcoin consulting company, and for 4 years now we've helped people to understand Bitcoin, teach them how to custody their coins correctly, and also teach them how to understand Bitcoin to the degree that they can make their own plan so they can retire early. And if that sounds good, hit the like button. It'd be awesome to have a new member of the community. Make sure you're subscribed, guys. We've got a good few subscribers who are listeners who watch all the videos, and you aren't even subscribers, so it really helps the channel. Go and check if you are a subscriber, especially if you're one of the OG Bitcoin with Danny community, the people who've done really well over the last year, the people who are very generous with their likes because they've been listening to this channel. So Blackrock and the Federal Reserve have told you about Bitcoin. I can't remember which Federal Reserve it was. It was a state Federal Reserve done a survey on Bitcoin, and they analysed Bitcoin, and they put what's called a Sharpe ratio on it. A Sharpe ratio of something that you put on any stock or a bond or on a commodity that you're going to buy, and it helps you understand the level of risk in the investment. So it's risk versus returns. It balances them up, and it just comes up with a generic number. 0 to 1 is like not great. 1 to 2 is good, and getting into the excellent range is closer to 3. So that's your Sharpe ratio. Now the Fed, with their article explaining Bitcoin and trying to help people understand it, is like, by adding Bitcoin to a portfolio, you increase the portfolio's Sharpe ratio. Now that's good. If you're an investor and you want to make money, you're going to construct a portfolio. Okay, we all understand you got to be diversified, and you have your basket of assets, and you might have some, the traditional way is to have 60% stocks, 40% bonds. That's the 60-40. If you ever hear that being talked about, that's it. You want 6% of your portfolio in stocks, 40% in bonds. Now that investment portfolio is now broken, and there's a new one, because that hasn't worked not in decades, but in years. So with that portfolio, the job, or what your goal is, to try and increase the Sharpe ratio of your portfolio. Now, how you can do that is to have an allocation to Bitcoin. So this is where people go wrong. Your average man and woman on the street, they'll say, oh, Bitcoin's risky. A sophisticated investor who's informed and understands Bitcoin and has done the work will tell you it's not risky. It actually de-risks a portfolio. It's more risky to not own Bitcoin in a portfolio than it is to own Bitcoin. Okay? And that's not my opinion. This is down to data analysis. The Sharpe ratio of your portfolio increases with a Bitcoin allocation. This is the alpha. This is the information that you guys get here on this channel. That's why you're subscribers. That's why you do better than people who listen to clickbait headlines and neglect the highest performing asset on the planet. Ask Kodak how they got on by neglecting the fact that digital cameras were invented. It didn't work out too well for them. Ask Blockbuster how they got on when they ignored the fact that streaming was invented. It didn't work out too well for them. And ask most normal people how they've got on by ignoring digital property, which is Bitcoin. The answer is they wish they understood it sooner, and that isn't going to continue for the next 10 years. So you're in the right place at the right time, consuming the right information. Happy Monday. I'm just passing a bit of time here because, as you know, if you guys follow me on Instagram, Bitcoin with Danny, you see what I get up to. I was on the batter last night, and I went out to my hometown, and of course then my normal 4 points of a Sunday turned into I 10x that. So my plan this evening is to go home with an Indian takeaway, and they don't open until 5 o'clock, so I have a couple of minutes waiting on the takeaway to open, get my nice Indian, get my, what am I going to get? I'm going to get a chicken korma with a pashwari naan. Amazing, unreal. So I've got a couple of minutes to drop some Dinny bombs and give you some advice. So by adding Bitcoin to a portfolio, it actually reduces the risk, which is awesome. And the reason for that is, just to give you a little bit of education about this stuff. With any investment, when you're making an investment, An investor doesn't look at the price of anything. The price is way down the list of when you decide to make an investment. The price doesn't matter. Okay, an investor focuses on return on investment. Now, people who don't understand how to invest or how to manage risk or what a Sharpe ratio is and all this stuff, they just look at the price of something. That's why most people, when they come to crypto and the new bull market that started, when we get the new cohort in, they'll look at the price. They'll see Bitcoin is priced very high, and then they'll see other tokens priced less. So they'll go, well, they must be better because they're only a penny. So that's a better investment for me. If that got to Bitcoin's price, or even if it only got 0.1% to Bitcoin's price, I do really, really well. Now, we know what that is. And it's called dumb money, okay? And it's called dumb money for a reason, because the money is moved from dumb money to smart money. So don't take that as to heart or offense if you are dumb money. I was dumb money at one part of my life, and you learn harsh lessons. I paid for a lot of education so I could not be dumb money and be smart money, okay? But inevitably that happens, and that's why people are very bad investors, because we don't understand the rules of investing. We never learn them in school. Okay, we teach you them all. Shameless plug, Retire Early Club. We teach you everything, so you are smart money, and you make a hell of a lot more money, and it costs you 99 quid a month. It's way too cheap. It'll be £1,000 a month soon, once we all realise the value of Bitcoin. Now, so you want to, when you're trying to value an investment, you're trying to get a valuation on, well, let's say if I'm investing in a stock in a company, I'm trying to make a valuation as an investor of, well, what's the company worth, and what's the potential of the company going to be worth, and what are the earnings of the company, and that's how you value companies, on price to earnings. You use a price to earnings ratio, and I think a lot of companies it's gone too much. The price to earnings ratio is out of control. A lot of companies are way overvalued in the stock market. That's why I own 0 stocks at the moment. Okay, so that's how you can value a company, but you can't do that with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has no price to earnings. So it's a difficult asset to value. It can be valued, but you can't use your traditional means. Okay, if you invest in a bond, okay, then you're using like credit risk, you're using like interest rate risk, and people calculate, well, that's your risk premium, and this is what you're getting paid, and so are you getting paid for the risk? Okay. And it's all based around the risk-free rate of return. The risk-free rate of return, just to bring up to speed on that, that's whatever the Federal Reserve, okay, the Central Bank of America, which is the global reserve currency, so whatever they set as the interest rate, that's called your risk-free rate of return. All right? So if interest rates are at 5%, well, I know, rather than leaving my money in the bank, I can put them into a government bond that will pay me 5%. And, like, I wouldn't call that risk-free, but the world does, the market does. It says that there's 0 risk buying a bond of the American government, because they will not go bankrupt, or they will pay out on the bond. There's a whole other, we could talk for hours on that, but that's the risk-free rate of return, whatever the interest rate happens to be, okay? Now, if you're investing into something like, a commodity like gold and Bitcoin, well, it doesn't have these things. It doesn't have earnings, so you can't do a price to earnings. So how you value Bitcoin is on what's called the stock to flow. Now, Plan B does a lot on the stock to flow, and people love him, and then people hate him because he also does price predictions, and people love it when they're right and they hate it when they're wrong. Okay, but that's how you value. You can get a valuation on something like gold. What is the stock? So with gold, it will be, what is the stock? No, let's talk Bitcoin. Sure, we're Bitcoiners. Let's talk Bitcoin. Stock to flow in Bitcoin is, what is the stock of Bitcoin? Well, there's 19.5 million available. So that's the current float. That's a float. That's the availability. That's the liquidity that's there at the moment. Okay? Is 19.5 million. And what's the flow? The flow is how many Bitcoins will be mined and how long it takes to mine them. So you have the stock, and then you have the flow coming into it. And Bitcoin has this unreal stock to flow that's bypassed gold now, and this is why it's a really important thing that you have to pay attention in. This is why you should have no interest in the altcoin casino. So here's a little tangent. Stock to flow. And before I go on the tangent, so I write down what I'm going to talk about, because by the time I talk about it, I'll have forgotten where I was. And this is Tinny's mind. There's too much stuff in it. Okay? The stock to flow, the casino. If you are... Oh yeah, and before I do any of that, well, I'm going to drop you 2 bombs of knowledge that are going to help you retire early. I want you to do me one favour. One favour I ask from you. Subscribe to the channel, channel and do your daily exercise. Find the like button. It's simple enough. Touch the screen, all right? Find it, press it, and share this video. Copy the link, share the video. These are really basic technical skills. And if you cannot do these, you will not be able to retire early on Bitcoin, because it's a level of competence. So this is your journey in retiring early on Bitcoin, is to learn how to subscribe to a channel and how to press a like button and how to find a link. And if you can do those 3 things, congratulations. You've just improved your level of competency with technology, and now you are closer to retiring early than you were before you learned those 2 skills. So I haven't seen a flood of likes coming in yet. Maybe some of you are struggling to find that button, but I hope for your early retirement, you can find it. Guys, so life's tough. Our life's good. Doesn't matter. But you're like, you know what? I want to earn more money. I want to get richer. So what I'm going to do is, on Monday, instead of going to work on Monday, I'm going to take a day off. And I'm going to go down to Paddy Power's and solve all my problems. I'm going to I'll just gamble the money. I'll go to the casino. Either Paddy Power's or the casino. I'll go to one of them places and get rich. Like, there's not a single intelligent person on the planet who would come up with that strategy. Because we know it's a rigged game. You're going to lose. The house always wins. You know, all these things. And okay, so it's not a smart way to try and solve your money problems. Or if you're already rich and want to be richer, it's not a smart way to make yourself richer. You're going to lose your money if you gamble it, if you go to a casino. Now, most people go to what's called the altcoin casino, which is the exact same. And do they retire early? Do they get rich? No, because it's dumb money. They are dumb money. Okay, and their money is rotated to smart money. So don't go there unless you have done the work and you are smart money. And if you're only learning about this thing, I can promise you, you're not smart money. Okay, if you've spent 0 time on your education, or you've read 0 books, you know, come back, maybe go to the altcoin casino when you've read 10 books. Okay, or you spent 90 minutes with me in one of my consulting sessions, because I can take you from having 0 knowledge what to do and having all the normal arguments or concerns about Bitcoin, and you'll walk out the door 90 minutes later with all the resources to know exactly what you're doing, how to do it, why to do it, and why you should do it, and all the resources to back it up. Okay, so the stock to flow is how we value Bitcoin. Okay, so we have the available Bitcoin is 19 million. That's the float. That's how much is available. The flow coming into it affects it. Okay, the stock to flow. And that's why when you put this onto altcoins, you realize that they're scams, and you realize why I call it a casino and why I know you're going to lose your money. Okay, because the stock to flow ratios are so skewed. They're horrible. They're disgusting. You shouldn't touch them if you understood this stuff, but you don't. Most people don't. Hopefully you guys will learn, and you will. So if I was to tell you that this year there's 19.5 million Bitcoin available and this year we're going to create another 19.5 million, what would that do for the price of Bitcoin, do you think, this year? You're like, Genie, there's a massive flow coming into the market. Going to need to be a lot of buying to soak up that. Otherwise, the price is going to come down. Okay? So that's the flow. Now, in the early days of Bitcoin, it was like that there was a huge flow coming in. Okay? But at the moment, this year, there's going to be 215,000 Bitcoins approximately mined this year. Now, you might have noticed on my video yesterday when we talked much more about this. Blackrock bought, or the day before, I can't remember. Blackrock bought, okay, 100,000 Bitcoins pretty much they have now. All the ETFs have 100,000 Bitcoins. There's only 200,000 getting made this year. We're on, what are we on, the 20th, 21st, 22nd of the month? So we're almost 1 month into it, and 50% of the supply that's going to be created this year is gone. Bought up by an ETF that's just launched. Now, it's going to take time for all those financial advisors to get trained up on this thing and to actually sell it to their clients. So they're going to need a hell of a lot more Bitcoin. This is why this is a price squeeze incoming. And I don't know, is it a month, a year, or years? But there's a problem here. The supply and demand economics, that there's way more demand, and the demand is only increasing than there is supply. So this year, there's only 200,000 Bitcoins being added to the 19.5 million. So you can see 19.5 million is here, 200,000 is a tiny little amount coming in. So it doesn't take much demand pressure to soak that up. And that's your stock to flow ratio. And that stock to flow ratio of Bitcoin, every 4 years, it doubles. Because in 4 years' time, the supply of Bitcoin gets chopped in half. So now it makes the stock to flow ratio even crazier. And this is why you have to understand Bitcoin and realize you should own this for a decade. In fact, your family should own this property forever. And when you really understand this, you realize this is like prime real estate. You own Grafton Street. When should you sell it? Should you make sure your kids aren't able to sell it because Your grandkids won't be able to own it then. Yeah, you should really understand what this is. Okay, so the stock to flow ratio just gets even better and better every 4 years. So by adding Bitcoin, long story short, or long story long, I think the Indian opens in 6 minutes, so this video will be and I have to drive to it. So, long story short, by adding of the 60-40 traditional investing rules, by adding Bitcoin to your portfolio, you reduce risk and increase performance. Okay? So everyone out there who thinks Bitcoin's risky, they just don't understand money or finance. The chances are they're not retired early because they don't understand this stuff. You guys want us to learn. That's why you're a subscriber. That's why you're a liker. And that's probably why you're in our Retire Early Club or you're one of my consulting clients. What else have I got to say about this? Banks hate Bitcoin. Banks own the world. Banks own the marketing, the media you consume. Okay? Our whole system is made on rent seeking. Okay? All these charges. That's why you pay so much in tax. That's why we have social unrest, which is only going to grow. That's why your kids can't afford a house. This whole thing, okay, is down to our money system. And Bitcoin fixes it. So I've gone from the top here of basic, this is what you got to do. Now I'm 14 levels deep. Okay? And a lot of people aren't ready for this. But banks earn billions every year on moving money. All right? Bitcoin makes that cost go to zero. So banks hate Bitcoin the very same way that Blockbuster hates Netflix. And Blockbuster's bankrupt now. The very same way that Kodak hated Apple because they invented the smartphone, or they brought the smartphone to market and Kodak went bust because no one needed to buy cameras anymore. Okay? So this is just be a rational thinking person. You're being marketed all the wrong information for good reason. Don't buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin's risky. Bitcoin's a Ponzi scheme. Bitcoin's only for illicit purposes. All nonsense. The banks paid, I have the figure here, 38 billion in fines. JP Morgan, one bank, 38 billion in fines for money laundering and other things that I can't even say on the internet because it might get my channel in trouble. Okay, so although the banks are telling you Bitcoin bad, and here I'll give you one thing. Okay, here's some irony. What company was that now? Let me think. Vanguard aren't allowing, so there's Blackrock and Vanguard, they're another huge investment company. Vanguard aren't allowing their customers to buy Bitcoin because they're like, it goes against our ethos. Alright, so they won't let their customers buy Bitcoin because it goes against their ethos. They want to protect their customers. Alright, so that's surface level. That's what people on the street get to absorb. That newspaper headline, yeah, I knew it, sure, everything I knew about Bitcoin that's what I thought. Alright, but what's really happening under the surface? Vanguard are a huge shareholder, okay, in a company called MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy is a company that owns 7 billion worth of Bitcoin. 1% of the Bitcoin supply is owned by MicroStrategy, and that company, price to earnings, how that company is valued, the value of that company is based on the amount of Bitcoin they own. Nothing to do with their company operations. It's just they make money, they rotate it into Bitcoin. So the entire valuation on that company is down to its Bitcoin. It's just basically, it's what you call a proxy for Bitcoin. It's how to own Bitcoin without actually owning it. How to secretly own Bitcoin or slyly own Bitcoin. So although they won't let their customers buy it, they themselves are a massive shareholder in MicroStrategy, which is a proxy for Bitcoin. So they've got their allocation, they've got themselves covered. So you have to pay attention to what they're doing, not what they're telling you. All right? Because this is a world, remember, it's just we're trying to rotate the money from dumb money to smart money. And it's unfortunate because not everyone has time to become smart money. I just want to work my job, put my money in the bank. I don't want to have to become a fucking hedge fund manager, but you have to in this day and age. The way our fiat money system works, you have to become a hedge fund manager if you just want to keep your own money. Because if you leave your money in the bank, it's stolen from you. How is it stolen? Through inflation, which is a silent tax. If you have 100 grand in the bank today, in 10 years time, that money buys you 50 grand worth of stuff. Okay? So you're losing 50% of your wealth every decade. That's how the system's worked. When you price it in scarce assets, this is what you start to learn, and it makes sense. Most people don't, because we just say a euro is a euro, but we don't understand that a euro is constantly changing, or a pound sterling, or a dollar. They're constantly changing. They constantly lose their value. And I know I'm having a massive brain dump here, and it's probably because I'm a bit hungover, so I'm all over the place. But once you are aware of that, and you're a rational thinking person, you're like, well, if I have 100 grand, and I want to save this money for 10 years, and although you shouldn't do this, okay, someone who takes 50 grand out of the bank and goes and buys lotto tickets is financially a better decision than someone who leaves the money in the bank. Because if you're guaranteed to lose 50%, well, you should take some risk with it. Even take massive risk, like buying lotto tickets, where the chances is you're definitely not going to win. But at least you should take a swing, because you've lost the money anyway. That 50 grand is gone anyway, in purchasing power terms. Okay? Now, I think you should make a much better investment with your money. But this is why you have to become an investor. You can't leave your money in the bank, because it's like a melting ice cube. Okay? Or as I describe to people, financial freedom is when you fill this bucket full of water. All right? And every day you go to work, you put a bit of water in it. Every day you go to work, you put a bit of water in it. But because of our money system, because of silent theft, you pay all your tax, yeah. That's taking water out. They come in with a spoon, they take a bit of water out every day, paying all your taxes, and that's okay. You know, if you think tax is okay, some people think tax is theft. Some people are okay with tax. I'm somewhere in the middle. I think we're taxed way too much, and government is far too big and so inefficient now that there's a huge waste of money, and that just makes the machine need to get bigger, and that's the system we're going through, and it's all cycles, and it'll blow up, and whenever it blows up, and it'll fall apart, and we'll rebuild a different system, and then it'll centralise. I think Bitcoin fixes this in the long term, because it allows for decentralization, which means that the power doesn't centralise. So, you know, the game isn't rigged, basically. You don't have the quintillion effect, where those at the top, it's easier to get rich, depending on how close you are on the financial ladder. It's like everyone gets equal opportunity, so everyone's incentivized to work hard. Whereas now the incentive is, well, if I work, they take most of what I earn, and if I don't work, they give me whatever I want. Well, not whatever I want, but I get a gaff, and, you know, life's easier. So the incentive is all skewed, and that's where we're at now. It's your kids are more incentivized to be bums, because they might actually be able to get a house, and if they don't, and they work hard, they're going to have to be taxed up to the eyeballs, and it's a terrible system, and that's why it's inevitable to fail. Okay? But a lot of information there. Sorry for the massive brain dump. Hope you got some good value out of it. If you did, let me know in the comments. If you're learning, share this video with people who are beginning their Bitcoin journey. Read a Bitcoin book. I recommend reading Everything Divided by 21 Million, or a very simple starter book for Bitcoin. You could read it in literally one sitting, is Why Bitcoin by Chris McLaughlin, an Irish guy. Really good book. Why Bitcoin, Chris McLaughlin. Ordered on Amazon. And begin your journey. You're going to have to learn about Bitcoin sooner or later, the same way as you're going to have to learn about the internet sooner or later. And my last point on Bitcoin stock to flow, because I never even got to Metcalfe's Law. Should I talk about Metcalfe's Law? I have time for it. You don't want to hear about Metcalfe's Law, but that's how you value Bitcoin, okay, is on Metcalfe's Law. And Metcalfe's Law is an S-curve adoption, and whatever it takes, a technology like phones, fax machines, cars, every technology, they go through S-curve adoption. Whatever it takes to get to 10% in time, it likely gets to 90% in that same time. So Bitcoin went from 0 to 10% of the world understanding it to some degree and having some sort of use in it in 15 years. And now we're into that second epoch, so it looks like we go to 90% over the next 15 years. That's why I have this program. That's why every day I'm out the door busy, teaching people how to use this retire early, because I think, me personally, I see this as the greatest opportunity in your life, and nobody can get to ignore Bitcoin. Eventually, you will have to, either you or your parent, it'll be all done for you, but the premium is that when it's done for you in 5 years or 10 years or whatever it is, you know, you've lost, you could be retired then if you actually done it yourself, if you spent a bit of time in education and maybe invested in some education in now, you could be retired then. And but nothing's guaranteed. It's an investment asset. You need to learn how to invest. You need to learn how to be an investor, and that means you need to learn stuff. But remember, knowledge compounds. You have it forever. You can take everything from me, everything, and I'll get it all back. Why? Because I have the knowledge. You can't take the knowledge from me. This is the beauty of learning, guys. This is why I'm so passionate about learning, and all my life I always just want to learn new things, do new things, whether it's riding motocross bikes, get better at that, playing the tin whistle, or understanding money better and investing better. Guys, hope you have a super day. Thanks for being here. Hit the like button, share the content. Dinny out.